right, I'm currently on the phone with Matthew. He's another musician that reached out about the current interview session. So I'm going to go ahead and give him the chance to introduce himself.
Hello, my name is Matthew Otto Drew of the band Oh Moses, and I also do solo projects as well. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thanks for keeping that short and sweet. I like it. All right. So let's focus in on when you first encountered music. What age were you when you first kind of realized that music was going to be a larger portion of your life?
So I was 12 when I started playing guitar, and I quickly ended up joining jazz ensemble in my school. I was like really into the Beatles. I was really into the guitar. I just fell in love with it. And I was far more interested in writing stuff than covering stuff. I loved coming up with new songs and coming up with new medleys and different melodies. I was just fascinated with the process of writing music. My dad played guitar when I was a kid, so I really idolized him as well. So music was just baked into me from a young age.
Okay. Would it be fair to say that the Beatles were why you wanted to start taking guitar lessons, or was there a different factor that led to that?
So it was kind of like half and half between me discovering the Beatles, where the first album I ever got was Abbey Road. So I really jumped right in where it culminated for them as a band, and just at their heights. But my dad also played guitar, and watching him play around the house and his love of music is really what started my passion for it. I think, it starts off you wanting to be your dad, but then you kind of find your own identity in the middle of all of it.
Okay, so there was some like family inspiration there to kind of get you motivated. As they say, monkey see, monkey do. So you kind of emulated those portions of the family situation that you're in. And then would you say that your father had an influence in the type of music that you eventually got into, like the Beatles, or did that kind of come from your own interests?
So he started me off on the journey of music. He gave me the Abbey Road album on cassette. He gave that to me. So he kind of started off my love of music like that. And then I really latched on to Paul McCartney, specifically in the Beatles. I just thought Paul was really the heart of the Beatles. I love John. I love George. I love all the Beatles, even Ringo. But Paul, I felt like, was this bolt of lightning creatively. And what he did for that band and how many songs he could write, it just kind of blew me away, just how prolific one artist could be. And that really set me on fire for writing music. I wanted to see how many songs I could write in a day. And I wanted to just really explore all the different levels of that.
Awesome. That's great. So let's talk about that. How did you explore that? Once you got comfortable, working with the instrument, learned enough that you started writing, how did you approach creating music, and what kind of content did you want to create musically?
So as I started playing, obviously you're only able to write what you're able to play for the most part. So my writing was pretty limited, pretty rudimentary, just very simple melodies over very simple chord progressions. But the deeper I got into my playing, the deeper I got into unlocking new levels of my playing. I was in jazz ensemble, like I said, so I was learning more complex time signatures, I was learning more complex chords, and that was unlocking whole new levels of my writing. And then once I started having real life experiences, that informed the lyrics that I was actually, the subjects of the songs are the things I was actually writing about. So it all started to come together in my late teens. I started to really figure out who I was as an artist, past just being able to write a bunch of little songs.
Yeah, that's perfect. So tell me about that. What did you kind of figure out about yourself as an artist?
So I realized that when I use my music as therapy, and when I use my music to process trauma in my life, and I know that could seem cliche and that could seem obvious, but for me, that really unlocks something inside me where I guess before I always treated writing music like it almost had nothing to do with me personally, and almost was like, telling stories about random situations with girls or this or that. And it just wasn't as plugged into my personal emotional experiences. And when I started using music to process death or to process, coming to terms with maybe you might not achieve your dreams and things like that. And I started using my lyrics to really unpack some heavy things. I started to find who I was as an artist in the middle of that. That really unlocked a level of my writing where I could dig deeper and I could discover myself in the process of going through my baggage.
Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. A couple questions about that, just kind of explorational questions. When you say, unlocking some of your personal baggage kind of helped you with the writing process, do you think at some point you became more of like a lyricist than a songwriter? Even those are kind of the same thing, but I think you catch what my meaning there.
I mean, ultimately, everything serves the song melodically. That's the first piece of what I write. I hear about people who will just start writing poetry and then they turn it into a song later, right? They start with the lyrics and they got all these words bouncing around their heads, and that's the first step to writing a song for them. For me, it's always been melody first, music first, and I always thought of like the lyrics as an afterthought. However, the deeper I got into music, the more that thing that was once an afterthought now holds so much more weight. I have to start with the melody and the music to be able to put the words into a format. But ultimately, I probably spend the most time working out the lyrics now than I do the rest of the music. I write the rest of the music and I make sure that it all works on a fundamental level, but I agonize over the lyrics.
Sure, that's a great answer. We're gonna switch gears a little bit. Tell me about some of the hardest obstacles you've had to overcome in order to get where you are.
So I think that there's a lot of rejection. There's a lot of swinging for things that you don't get. I've been in talent competitions. Like there was this local TV talent competition I did and I won it. And I thought that, that was going to mean something at the time. It was so important to me. And then the show didn't even end up happening. They lost money. They went bankrupt or something. And the show didn't even air on local television. So even if it did air, it wouldn't have been anything. But, you build these things up in your head when you're going through them, and everything's so much bigger than it really is in your head. Right. And I've had times where songs were played on the radio and I thought, this is it. This is it. And you keep thinking that this is going to be it. This is going to be it. And a lot of times it's not. And I guess the biggest evolution I've been through was just getting comfortable with that and accepting that, and accepting that you're going to have moments, and most likely they may not pan out into anything real, but just get comfortable with every possible outcome to everything you do, and it's all going to be fine.
Perfect. So essentially there, you kind of explained that the biggest obstacle you've had to overcome is basically your own expectations kind of thing.
Exactly. Because when I was putting all of this pressure on these situations, it would be devastating, right? You would see something not come together, and it would rock your world to the point where you're having an identity crisis. You're feeling like a fraud. You're feeling like, why are you even putting all this effort into something that you're not getting the same amount back from? It's just avoiding those pitfalls, avoiding those crashes is the best thing I could have ever done. Just being comfortable with whatever happens. It's all gravy. Just do it for the love of doing it.
Sure. Perfect. All right. What are some of your favorite memories that you have of music in general, whether it was a show you went to that kind of kept you motivated, or writing, or getting over those expectations? What are your memories that stand out to you?
I mean, as far as, you have like the early ones, right? Where, the first time I played in a band on stage, the first time I was playing on stage in a band, and just that feeling like of, oh my God, this is pure electricity. This is everything I want. Right. And if only I could take this and, keep multiplying this. Right. And then there's those feelings of when your song does get played on the radio, and this, thinking of who could be hearing this right now and all of that. Right. And then there's like meeting musicians that you idolize, meeting musicians that you love. Like I met Dan Mangan. Dan Mangan is an indie folk artist out of Canada. And I met him when he was just breaking it into America. And he is somebody who has seen real success. And being able to meet someone like that, give them your CD, talk to them, and have them give you tips about music, it's just some of the most important things to keep you going with music, is to just think about these moments. These are why you're doing it. It's for these moments right here, for these moments that remind you, oh, this is something you love. This is something that validates something deeper inside you.
Okay, perfect. All right. Where can people find the stuff that you're working on and putting out? What are your social media links?
So my band name is Ohmoses, OH, and then MOSES. So you can find us on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, just ohmosesmusic. You'll be able to see our stuff pop up. My name is Matthew Otto Drew, and you'll also see Zach Breslin as the other bandmate in the band. So a lot of the social media stuff is just me on a guitar playing, but the recorded stuff, there's a lot of riffs going on in there. There's a lot of layers to it. It's a lot more produced.
Awesome. Very cool. So I just like to give the person I'm interviewing the opportunity to put out their last word. So what's a message that you have that you want to share with people?
I mean, ultimately, I feel as though the music that we make, there's more of an emotional core to it. It's meant to be catchy. Yes, it's meant to be fun indie music, but at the heart of it, there is a real deep emotional core to it. And if you listen to the lyrics, you're going to hear a lot going on under the surface. So if you do check out the music, pay attention to the lyrics. We love this music. We slave away for this music. And like I said, I agonize over the lyrics. So anyone taking the time to listen and to pay attention to all the aspects of it, I feel like it will reward that. So